As the Senate passes the infrastructure bill, the divided Democratic Party now faces a key vote in the House of Representatives. The Biden-touted $1.2 trillion infrastructure package will reach the House floor, as progressive Democrats warn, without a deal on a broader social policy bill. They do not intend to support it. The broader $3.5 trillion bill that has split the party includes investments in health care, child care, higher education, workforce training, and paid family and medical leave, which moderate Democrats, including Senators Joe Manchin of West Virginia and Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona, have made clear that they do not approve of, at least when it comes to the final cost. All of this as the Senate just passed a stopgap funding bill that keeps the government running until December 3rd, sending it to the House, where it's expected to pass today. That vote is expected to occur at any moment, and we will bring it to you live. Like I said, we have a lot to unpack here. ABC News political director Rick Klein, also ABC News business correspondent Deidre Bolton for more with us. We'll try and get Terry in here as well, possibly Rachel Scott on the Hill, guys. But Rick, so much to talk about here. Why don't we begin with this vote? And if it fails, it would be a big hit to Biden's Build Back Better agenda. It would also signify a lack of Democratic Party consensus ahead of the midterm elections, yes?
Yes, and I can confirm it's a dugout that the baseball players go into, helping Jen Psaki understand this. But look, this is a consequential day in the Biden presidency, and all of the optimistic talk that we've heard from Speaker Pelosi and now from the White House press secretary papers over the fact that there is no plan. There is no path right now to getting the votes, a majority of votes on this infrastructure package, and that means that the Biden agenda is stalled. That's the bottom line. And until or unless the president can bring some unity to this party, get the moderate and progressive wings on the same page, as Terry mentioned in the briefing, it appears that negotiations have taken a step back today. Certainly the recriminations would suggest that. It doesn't mean it's dead. It doesn't mean that they can't make good on this promise. But even now, today, you don't have clarity from the White House about whether they definitely want to vote in the House or not. The White House is trying to assuage all the different wings of this party, and these guys just flat don't trust each other. And it is about Democrats and Democrats alone trying to go it alone on the Biden agenda. They have different ideas about what works in terms of policy and politics, and at this hour, there is no path forward.
It's hard to hear. And Deidre, let's bring you in. Since 1917, the U.S. government has always raised the debt ceiling. There is a connection here between the two things. Why is it so important to do so?
If the government can't borrow to pay for what Congress has already approved, this is so important because millions of Americans could be affected. So let's go down this list. Social Security checks, this is one big component. They could be delayed or stopped. U.S. military service members, they may stop receiving paychecks. Veterans benefits could be delayed or stopped. FEMA funding could be delayed or stopped. Child nutrition programs could be cut off. So this is why we're hearing such extreme language, for example, from Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen and others, saying if this debt ceiling isn't raised, it would really be a financial catastrophe. Kara.
And Rick, while lawmakers appear close to dodging a crisis in the form of a government shutdown, significant work remains to secure passage of the president's infrastructure plan. How would the vote not passing impact Biden's plan on that front?
Well, I think all of these things are connected because right now you need the Democrats to work together as one party. What's so remarkable about this week, Kira, is that this isn't about Democrats jousting with Republicans. It's about Democrats disagreeing with themselves and mistrusting themselves and second-guessing themselves inside the party. That's where President Biden needs to come in. And these things have a way of building on each other. If you can bring the party together around the importance of getting any one of these packages, it does have an undeniable impact on the next one. But that's where this starts to break down, is that these battle lines have been drawn for months, if not years, inside the Democratic Party. The Biden strategy has been to basically delay a day of reckoning, to say, let's just keep going, let's keep going, let's keep going. Now you have a deadline that was set, and in addition to deadlines like government funding and the debt ceiling that are imposed by other legislation that bring these things to a head. And something has to give. No one has, to this point, let down on their demands and their insistence that what they're doing is actually for the good of the Democratic Party and even the good of the Biden presidency. If this fails, it's because you've got Democrats who just have different agreements, different ideas themselves as to what Joe Biden should be getting done.
Rick, thanks. We're going to take it straight to Rachel Scott because something else that we've been following today was the hearing on the Hill talking about the abortion rights. Cori Bush was one of those members of Congress speaking in the hearing. Let's go to it live.
Just a few weeks ago, authorized a $730-odd billion defense budget authorization for 1 year. So why is something half that size needed to be chopped down another half? So if this is really about the deficit, then maybe we go after our defense spending and find our savings there instead of going after people's child care.
I asked him today, is that his top line number? Would he go up? He said no, he is firm on $1.5 trillion. So would you be willing to come down?
You know what? Where are the investments? My question is, who is he saying? Who is he pinpointing? You know what? You all don't deserve the investment in climate. You all don't deserve 2 years of college. Who is he taking the money from? That's my question. Because let's be clear, 3.5 wasn't our number. You know, I was at the 6. You know, and so when you take it down to 3.5 trillion, then you tell us no, we won't even do that. We want to do 1.5. Who is it that you feel is so set up and stable and in a position to where they don't have needs, to where it's okay to make this decision? Because being clear, he does not need any of the resources that we're talking about. We have to support and make sure that resources are available for every person in our communities. How do you say that? So my question to him is, who are you saying should not have prescription drug coverage reform? Who is it that you're saying should not have these housing investments? What community like mine, number one for murder, number one for homicides in the country, you're telling us that we should not have the investment in community violence intervention, $5 billion. You're telling us no? That is my concern.
The two sides are really far apart at this point. What more can the president be doing to get this across the finish line?
Well, you know, I think one of the issues that we have had here is that some of our Senate colleagues are all over the place. You know, Senator Manchin started off with an openness to $3.5 trillion. This is reporting as far back as June, and also on the record saying a two-track strategy is the main strategy that we have. So this was what Senator Manchin was saying 2 months ago. And so the question that we have is which senator are we negotiating with? Is this June Manchin? Is it September Manchin? Is it August Manchin? Will December Manchin be a different, will this be a different senator that pops up? So when you have a moving target, and when we've been in infrastructure negotiations for 6 months, and the two main senators, after 6 months of negotiations, still don't even have an idea of what their number is, that just pulled one out yesterday after being engaged in these conversations for 6 months, this is what is leading, their lack of consistency and their lack of homework.
Yes.
Is creating instability to this process, because we cannot negotiate with a melting or moving object.
Right.
And so instead of them asking everyone to cater to themselves, why don't we come to this process as equal partners? Right now, they are demanding also a vote on an infrastructure bill that they have authored, demanding that the House not conference it, demanding that every House member rubber stamp it with no House amendments, that essentially their bill authored as is go straight to the president's desk without any amendments. They have no top line number for negotiations. I mean, we need to be serious. And right now, what we are seeing from the conservative side, the small cadre of people, is a fundamentally unserious pattern of negotiation.
Last question, because you have to go vote.
We gotta go.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
I gotta vote. I'll be right back.
Okay. And let me know if Rachel Scott, if she gets that IFB in her ear, and we can bring her up, as that just happened live. We have her. I knew we could do it. Rachel, we were going with the flow here. Rachel, it's Kira. Can you hear me okay? You hear me all right, Rachel?
Can you hear Kira?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right.
No, I don't hear him.
This is live. Okay. Can you hear me? Okay, we'll figure it out. This is live television. This is when these type of things happen. We like to get obviously right to it. Doesn't need to be polished. It's been a high-stakes battle on Capitol Hill for a number of reasons. When we get comms with Rachel, we'll go right to her because we'll talk about infrastructure bill and also that hearing that was happening on the Hill regarding abortion rights because Cori Bush, Representative Cori Bush, that you can see right next to AOC there, Alexandria-Cortez. Okay, she can hear me now. There, I knew if I vamped a little bit, we could get connected to Rachel. Can you hear me okay? Perfect. I love it. All right, we are now live, Rachel. Everybody's being patient, kind of going with us here, because that was pretty amazing. There's been so much happening on the Hill today, and when I was told that you were talking to Cori Bush, I actually tossed your live interview talking about the hearing that was going on the Hill with regard to abortion rights. We can get to that in a moment if you had a chance to talk with Cori Bush about that, but when we went to you had Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez talking about the infrastructure bill. So we're all over the place here today. So let's just, let's pick a lane and go. Let's start with infrastructure.
Yeah, Kira, well, I appreciate you all keeping up with the chaos that is unfolding here on the Hill. It is a reflection of really what's happening in the House and the Senate. As you can see, there is a rally that just wrapped up behind me. This is just really tense here on Capitol Hill. The two sides are just so far apart at this point. There is a complete standoff between progressives over in the House and moderates over in the Senate. I just spoke to Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Congresswoman Cori Bush. They say that $1.5 trillion that Senator Joe Manchin says is his top line is just simply too low. They're asking him, what do you want to cut? And they feel like he's moving around the needle constantly. Now, a source tells us that Senator Manchin informed Majority Leader Chuck Schumer all the way back in as early as July that his top line was $1.5 trillion, that he's been pretty firm on that. The bottom line is this is all coming to a head in just a matter of hours. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says she's going to have a vote on the bipartisan infrastructure package today, and it is expected to fail because progressives like the two I just talked to say there's no way they're voting for it.
All right, stay with me, Rachel, because while you were able to catch up with AOC and Cori Bush, we were also taking our Terry Moran, who was live at the White House briefing during Jen Psaki's briefing. Terry, I know you were able to get to a camera. Everything's happening in real time here, so you had a chance to hear what Rachel got just moments ago there on the Hill. What were you able to get from Jen Psaki in the briefing today? We did catch a little bit. She needed to be educated on baseball. We'll get to that in just a second. But when it comes to infrastructure, but two of you had quite the exchange there, Terry.
Well, she knows her brief on policy. She said that her husband, who's a huge baseball fan, would be upset that she couldn't remember the word for dugout in the moment. She got there eventually. But more seriously, look, she's scrambling. The White House is scrambling right now. The situation that Rachel is reporting on in real time and has just described is something, frankly, they really desperately hope to avoid. At the beginning of this week, they set a deadline, and the Democrats in control of Congress, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, they said, this is the week. And I asked Jen Psaki about that. She tried to say, well, it wasn't really a deadline. There was her own words. But what she did say substantively about this moment in which things are going south, it seems, she said, this is messy. This is what it looks like. And she made a point that I thought was a fair point. She said, we're in the middle of it right now. This is how it works, and people may not be familiar with it because for the past several years, and not just the previous administration, but in many ways the end of the Obama administration, for years, the better part of a decade, we haven't seen real legislation moving forward in this manner. People with their agendas, with their numbers, with their red lines, battling it out, and the president presiding over it and trying to make the thing move forward. It's not moving forward. Here's how Jen Psaki answered my question on what happened to their deadline. That deadline that was set at the beginning of the week, announced that this is the big week. Mm-hmm. Democrats are in charge here at the White House and in both houses of Congress. And they set the deadline. Democrats set the deadline.
To be clear, they just set the date of a vote.
All right. You called it a deadline. I was just using it.
Okay, fair. But thank you for the clarification. They set the time of a vote.
Democrats set this vote. Now they're going to miss it, fail to make it. Why is
We don't know that. It's only 3 o'clock.
Can you tell us there's going to be a vote tonight?
That's what Speaker Pelosi indicated her plan was.
My question. Wait for that. My question is, why isn't it fair to see this as a failure of the president to get his own party to back him and his agenda?
Why isn't it, before we've even had a vote and we don't even know where it sits, a failure of the president?
It feels like we're farther away today than we were on Monday.
I don't think the president feels that way, and I don't think members of Congress feel that way.
You've talked about progress. Can you explain what progress is? You said it's people talking about where they are. That sounds like an earlier part of the process when you had set a vote for the end of the week.
Well, I would point you again to what Speaker Pelosi said earlier today. In the end stages, the later stages of a process, where we are now, when you get closer to a vote, a time of a vote being set, that's when the negotiations get serious. That's when people start putting down bottom lines of where they stand. You've seen some people do that publicly. A lot more of it happens behind the scenes. That's what I mean by progress. You've seen members come down in numbers. You've seen members come up in numbers. That's what we're working on to get to an agreed upon path forward.
Well, that was an interesting definition of progress in a legislative debate. Usually it's you're lining up your votes if you're coming to the end, when you set a vote, when you set a deadline, as Jen Psaki originally said. And you know, Rachel's reporting on it, as I say, in real time. They aren't there. But Joe Biden has been around this kind of process for, you know, more than a lot of people have been alive, and he's not panicking. But he does need to show real progress in this debate, or, you know, he's going to lose the momentum that this party has had since they passed in the Senate that bipartisan infrastructure package. Then it looked like, okay, the old pro-senator has got it, and if this continues to stumble and even fall apart as it is feeling, he's going to be in some trouble.
And it was sort of prophetic there, hearing the alarm go off as you were asking those questions. That was a little twist of irony there, because time is of the essence. And Rachel, as you were there on the Hill and you had a chance to talk to Joe Manchin, and just moments ago, AOC and Cori Bush, I mean, when it comes to the infrastructure bill, moderate progressive standoff, it's worsening just hours before this vote.
Yeah, Kira, Pelosi has said that she's taking this hour by hour, and I'm telling you, it's really not getting much better hour by hour, because we keep tracking down these key lawmakers, and they are just not budging. They are not there. And Terry is so right. This is a self-imposed deadline. Democrats set this deadline. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has repeatedly said she does not come to the floor to lose, but I have not talked to a single progressive lawmaker today who has indicated that they are changing their mind. Have not talked to any moderates over in the Senate who have indicated that they are changing their mind. This is a very, 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 very deep standoff. And I would just like to say here, we have been negotiating this for months, Democrats. They have been negotiating this for months. And President Biden canceled his trip to Chicago to continue those negotiations. We saw House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Majority Leader Chuck Schumer be summoned to the White House. Still no movement right here. They are just not there for this vote tonight.
All right, Rachel Scott on the Hill for us. Thank you so much. And thanks for rolling with us there live and in the moment. Terry Moran there at the White House for us, just coming out of the briefing. This is the best part of live television. I love it. Deidre Bolton also, thank you so much. And our Rick Klein, appreciate all of you.
Thanks, Gary.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.